In this video, I'm going to go through some options that you have with images. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time on the removing of the background as you need it for the assignment that we happen to have this week. But I'm going to cover some other stuff too that's helpful for you as you work with images. I've pre-typed the announcement here that you need to do. It doesn't need to look exactly like mine. It should look like the one in the example. Mine's pretty close. I don't think the borders were quite the same, but I liked these better. So let's talk about inserting images. So we want one right here. We want to put it in a way that it doesn't interfere with the text and we can move it where we want it. So let's talk a little bit about our options for images or pictures. Here we have on the Insert tab the Pictures button. We have some other options here too that we'll get to some of these down the road, but we're going to focus on just images. So this one I have a picture on my device, but I want to talk a little bit about some of these others too. We have this option for stock images. This goes out to the internet and finds stock images that are available for you to use. There we go. Here they come. You've got different options. For example, these with the checkered background, these are transparent backgrounds, so these are good in Word. We're actually going to go through removing the background of images, of course. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you install an image, sometimes the background is still there and it doesn't match the background on the document you inserted it into, and it doesn't look quite right, and then maybe you're not sure what to do about it. Well, we're going to cover some of that today. So you get the idea. This is one of the places that you can go to get pictures. You also have online pictures. This also reaches out to the internet for actual images. You've got a bunch of different categories here that you can choose from. And you kind of get the idea. These are just pictures that other people have taken that you can put into your documents as appropriate. For this one, perhaps you have a Thanksgiving theme or a Halloween theme flyer that you're doing, but yeah, for this particular assignment, this flyer, we're going to take one that I've downloaded onto my device. Let's take a look here. I believe it's that one. And we're going to insert it right there. Now, a couple of things you'll notice that I can't drag this and just move it wherever I want as easily as I would like. I would maybe like it over here, but it's doing a couple things. It's taking some of the formatting options that I've applied to the rest of the document, and it's using them for the image. So what I can do, what I recommend you do is click here. In fact, let me check this thing real quick. Yeah, so you're told to use the text image wrapping so you can position the image exactly where you want it on the page. So you've got with text, in line with text. Okay, what it's talking about, the default is in line with text. We don't want it there. These options down here are going to let you move it to anywhere on the page that you want. What I'd recommend for this particular one is top and bottom. That moves the text above and below. If I choose something like this, it keeps the text around the image, and I don't want that. I want to have the text above and below. Okay, and then of course I do also want to resize it so it's about the size that the image is. That's what these handles around the edges are for. I can use these, but I don't like those because they distort the image. If you have an image where that doesn't matter, those are great. You can also rotate the image with this handle up here. But these corners, when you use those, they keep the image in the ratio, the aspect ratio of its origin. So people's faces don't get all stretched or smushed as you move them around. So that's the first thing you do to insert an image. I want you to look up here. You have a picture format ribbon that's added when you have an image selected, and you have a whole bunch of options that you can use. You can tell it exactly what size you want this image to be. You can crop the image. That is, I could say maybe I don't want all this extra stuff around the edges, so I wanted to crop it. I would use this button. You can use this rotate button. Here's some of those options that we saw down here, similar to this. If you have multiple images, sometimes they interfere with each other. Oops, sorry about that. So if you have one that's over the other, you want to bring the other in front of another image. You'd use these buttons, the bring forward and send backward. You can group images. We're not going to go into that right now, but let's say you have several different images that kind of go together to form a larger image of something that you're trying to do, maybe directions, or you put a whole bunch of things and you just like the order. You can group them so that you can grab them all and move them around your screen. And I'm not sure if we're going to cover that in this class, but that's a useful feature when you have multiple images on your document. The alt text is what displays when you hover your mouse over it. And then you have these picture styles. You've got a bunch of different things that you can do that add some cool effects. And these are things I'd like to see you use in your submissions. Perhaps not for this one because we're going to do something else, but down the road we're going to do some other assignments with images. I'd like to see you experiment with these in addition to these options, the effects options, and the layouts we'll talk about with another assignment. We won't talk really about these here today. There's the transparency. Won't talk about that much today, but let's say you have an image that you want to use as a background for a document. You use the transparency to try to kind of fade it out a little bit so you can see text over the top of the image. You have artistic effects that do some cool things. And colors, you can change an image to black and white or a drawing or whatever. You can tell it to correct. If you have an image that you don't think looks quite right, you can correct things here. So you got a pretty robust set of tools here for images within Word to make the image look the way you want. The last one that I'm going to show you is the one you need to worry about for this particular assignment, and that is the Remove Background button. Well, when I press that, you can see that the boy and his dad are the only things that would remain if I said, go ahead and keep changes. See? Well, I don't really want that. So let's try that again. I want to mark areas to keep. So I'm going to go, let's start around the dad's head. I want to keep his hair. I do not want to keep, let's see, I do want to keep his pants. I want to keep the picnic box. I meant the whole box. Come on now. There we go. It's getting the idea. So Word, like many other image software types, tries to guess what you're doing, so it does its best. It's not perfect. One of the things you might need to do is zoom in a little bit, and you notice when I'm zooming in, at least on a PC, it kind of previews what it's going to look like. I want to keep the kid's lap. I want to keep mom's head. And I'll probably keep the little girl's head too. And the milk. Pretty much everything in there. And it guessed wrong. Okay. All right, so we've got all our people included. That's a good start. Now we need to mark things to remove. And I'm going to zoom in a little more. I don't want all the grass behind there. And you'll have to play with it. It's not cooperating. This can be tedious, but I need you to do your best. Make sure you have the things that should be included. There we go. It's looking a little better now. Nope. There. Just do your best. I'm going to pause this, do my best in a fairly short amount of time to kind of demonstrate what I'd like to see from you, and I'll be right back. Something that might be helpful as you're doing this is you can just click and it'll remove small bits. You kind of see it's trying to learn what it is exactly that you don't want. So that's helpful. A little tedious, but better than trying to circle everything, because the circles don't tend to work in a lot of cases. No. So come up here and there it's trying to guess. You kind of see where I'm clicking. It's also trying to guess there are some other areas that it's eliminating as I click around the mother's head. So go through this and do your best. And I'm going to pause this and be right back. So this is kind of get the idea. It's a little rough around the edges. This is a pretty highly pixelated image, so it's not going to be perfect. And I'll tell you that there are some image editors that do a better job, surely. But within Word, you can do this. Try to refine these edges as best you can. But that's what we're looking for as far as removing the image, the background to the image. And make sure you apply image wrapping. So if you leave it in line with text, you'll lose points because that's the default. You'll want to choose one of these others. You can also do that up here, of course. Up here with one of these 4 options. And then that's all I've got for this. A lot of things you can do with images. And down the road, you're going to have some assignments where you can really be creative. I encourage you to be creative. You'll get more points for creativity on your images. But I hope you have fun with this. This is some really cool stuff that we get to use.